phase for when you provide your resume to the companies, or at a later stage when they are screening for the next steps in the job process, they are looking at you online. They are searching for you online, and LinkedIn is the place a lot of professional companies look for professional profiles and look for what is your uh, what is your history of work, what type of experience you have, and then basically deciding on that. So it's very important to actually have a solid LinkedIn profile, and it's something that you should continue to work on. There are other ways also that you can build your brand online. This session is today is about LinkedIn, so I'm going to focus on that. But if you have any other questions about other social media platforms or things like that, I can take one or two questions from that perspective as well. First and foremost, what is a professional brand? It's very important today in digital world that we think about us as all of us having a brand online. In a digital world, when today you go on Google or Bing or any of these search engines, if you search for anyone, what are you going to find about that person, right? It is very important for you to actually have an online profile and a professional profile if you want to land and succeed in your career. That is important for you, for most of you as your students, to start your career. But once you start your career, to stay and kind of exceed in your career and get different opportunities, LinkedIn is a great platform. I know in Pakistan, LinkedIn is starting to actually used a lot. It was not there when, let's say, I was graduating at all. It was not a platform back then. And in the last, I would say 5 to 7 years, I've seen an uptake by companies to actually use LinkedIn for recruiting processes. So it's very important for you to actually have a professional brand and have a professional brand using LinkedIn. So the questions I want you to think about is, first of all, what makes a good brand? So this is a question for all of you. You can use the chat feature here to put down, what do you think is a good brand? What makes a brand stand out from everything else? For example, today, if I want to go and find a mobile phone for myself, why would I choose one brand over another? So this is a question for you to think about. Then how do you identify your brand? What is unique about you? And then how do you showcase that right brand to the companies that are trying to hire any person with the right skill set for that particular job? So the first thing I want to talk about is what makes a good brand. So let's say if today I want to go and buy a particular cell phone, what are the things that I'm going to look at? What is the promise that the brand has for me that I would choose that brand over any other, right? Um, Sometimes it's the quality, sometimes how it stands out, sometimes how they do the marketing, sometimes it could be how unique it is. So it could be a combination of those things. Thinking of that for any brand, just imagine that for a human being or your professional brand. It is very important for you to understand what is that is unique about you. How do you stand in the crowd? How do you stand out actually in the crowd? Let's say if today I have an open position and I get 50 resumes and I look at those 50 resumes and then those 50 LinkedIn profiles, how does your LinkedIn profile or resume stands out for me as a hiring manager? And that's what we are going to talk today in all of this session. How can you stand out? How can you showcase your unique skills? How can you actually update your LinkedIn profile so you are ready for that job search, or just create your network on LinkedIn and get and land your ideal job as well. So a lot of times it starts by thinking, give me 1 second. I think something happened to my screen share. Give me 1 second. Okay, I hope you can still see the screen. Let me go back to the screen that I was on. Yeah, so I was talking about how do you define your professional brand, right? So a lot of people actually think, oh wait, I have my own brand. Yes, we all have our own brand. And it's very important for us to identify what is that is unique about ourselves and how can we actually make a promise to the future employer in that sense, and how do we stand in that sea of thousands of resumes that sometimes apply to the same position. So it's important that you are in charge of that brand as compared to somebody else. So if I today go search your name on the search engine, what is that I'm going to find out, right? It's important that you actually build that story for you and have that brand for yourself. That's the first and most important thing that I want you all to understand. The second thing is the value of your brand. Again, how are you unique? What are the things that when I look at your profile that will stand out for me? What should an employer expect from you when they hire you? And then what is the type of schooling, projects, things like that that you have done that stand out? So those are some of the things, again, we are going to talk in more detail from a LinkedIn profile perspective. That summarizes into these three or four things. What are the skills? What type of network that you bring? What information that you hold? What values you have? And then what goals you have. And LinkedIn has a good way to actually have different sections that you can actually go into details of all of this over there. I also want to highlight LinkedIn is not like Instagram, it's not Facebook, it's not TikTok or any of those platforms. It's a professional platform. So you should think about putting your best professional self, your skills from a professional perspective out there. A lot of people kind of get confused on what should be on other social media platform versus LinkedIn. So anything that you want your employer to know about you and why that is unique about you, and that can get you a future job, is in a very high level definition of what you should be putting on LinkedIn. Anything else that is your personal or any other skills that you carry or how you do socialize, all of that, that can be on other platforms such as TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and so many others that are out there. So it's very important that you understand the difference between a professional social media platform versus any other. So you definitely should think about what you're putting out on LinkedIn versus on other platforms as well. So at this point, I would like you to take a second in the chat. If you all can open up the chat, I would recommend you to think about 3 words that your friends use to describe you. And then think about 3 words, any of your colleagues, any kind of professional, like maybe your professors or anyone in your, anything that you've done any work, maybe an internship, or anyone that you've done any kind of projects with. So any colleagues that you have worked in any professional environment, think, I will pause here for 2 minutes. Think about the 3 top words that you think they would use to describe you. And why I'm doing this exercise, these are important things, these are unique things about you. And I'm going to share some of the ways how you build your brand statement. When I ask you, tell me about yourself, how are you going to reply to me? And you can actually use these 3 words because these are unique about you. Everyone, when you write it down, they will have different words. You will not have the same words because you're all very unique people, right? So want you to think about those, put it in the chat. What are those uh, that that come up to your mind? Yeah, I see somebody wrote hardworking, disciplined, creative. That's great. I really like the word creative there. Somebody wrote honest, hardworking, enthusiastic. That is great. Motivated, friendly, confident. That's great. Catchy and realistic. That's a good twist of looking at it. So this is an exercise that I want all of you to do. So even if you're not, let's say, want to put it here on the chat, take a paper and pen, write it down for you, and write it down with the today's date of what you think that you think. Then actually go and ask your friends. Actually go and ask some of your professors or colleagues or somebody to describe those and see what you thought versus what your friends actually thought versus your colleagues that actually thought, how how similar they are and how different they are. So I want you to really write it down with today's date and maybe do the same exercise after 6 months, 1 year, once you start your careers also in a couple of years, to go back to this list and see how you have changed. How are these kind of different things that are unique about you changing, or how they are perceived by others around you? Because you might be thinking, let's say you are a hard worker. Does your friends and colleagues also think the same way or not, right? I see a lot of you mentioning about hard work. They mention about kind of helping others. So being creative is another trend that I'm seeing. Always completing the job. There are a few others. Hardworking is something that's coming across a lot. Team player, I really like that. Whoever wrote it, I think Ali Ahmed is somebody who wrote that. Punctual, being on time, that's great. So all of these are, again, these are the things that are unique about you, and this is what your brand is about. So I want you to start thinking about you as that brand, and how can you reflect this in your profile and your resume in a way that you can stand out, which is unique about you. And again, every one of us has our own superpowers, and we should actually hone into those things that are unique about us. Some of us are great speakers, some of us are great community workers, some of us are great, I would say, hardworking, confident. There are different things that you can actually kind of hone in and build your professional brand around that. And whatever is it today, it might not be the case in 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, because you will evolve, you will change, you will learn from your experiences, and that would be basically how your brand will evolve as well. So it's important for you to understand that. So that's why it's important that you write it today, you look at it in a year's time or 6 months time, and then keep on thinking about how you're evolving as well. Somebody wrote compassionate, self-aware, dedicated. That's great. I really like the word compassionate, because in any team setting, any work that you're doing, empathy and compassion are very important traits that you would need to succeed in any career. So that is definitely useful. So going back to the slides, now that you've done this exercise, remember these words that you're thinking. Also keep thinking about that. Now, how do you define this into your brand statement? So I'm giving you two formats here and two examples with links of how these folks have done. These I don't know these people, but these are some ways that how I have done over the years. I'm sharing an examples of there. So there are two examples on the slide. You can actually change this into any form that you want to be known. So for example, if you go into any interview, usually the interview starts by saying introduce yourself, right? I was also introduced into this session by the introduction that my bio, what I do and what I like to do, right? So one of the format is you to talk about I do something to achieve, help, provide, dash, whatever. So that is one way to showcase what you do to do what. What is the impact of it? So there's a great example by Debbie on the top. You can read through it. It's a very interesting, fun way of describing what she does and how she solves somebody else's problem. It's a little bit longer, but usually this intro should be like 30 seconds, under 1 minute, maximum 2 minutes. You should not go on and on and on about your introduction. So this is how you basically start with your brand statement. And this is something that you will be useful not just on your any of your profile stuff, but it's also useful in any intros, any conference you go to, any meeting you go to where you have to introduce yourself. The other format, which is very simple and straightforward, is again, I have something to do something, right? So this is very simple one-line example of what a person's intro is about. You can think about starting with a very simple format and over time actually evolve into what is the impact. And one bonus tip that I have for you is sometimes when you're doing an introduction, don't make it very professional, like 100% just to the point. Add a fun fact about you, add something that the other person will remember even afterwards as well, because humans are social beings, right? We tend to like or remember things that stand out. So if you're meeting somebody, you mention about your intro, and then you add a fun fact about something you did. For example, you created a website that got some million views or something like that. Any of the work that you've done has made any impact. Some of you organize this event. I'm sure you do a lot of other things in your student projects and all of that. So you can definitely highlight some of the impact, any change that you have caused because of your work. You can definitely add that to it, and that's one way of actually standing out. So I hope this example brand statements help. Again, I have the sources on here as well. You can go in and read more about those. And I will be sharing the slide deck at the end afterwards through the event organizer. So you will be able to get all of this as well. So now that we have talked, so just to quickly summarize all the things that I've talked about so far. So talked about what is a brand. I talked about that every one of you has a brand. And I talked about a professional brand. And then we went into kind of going a small exercise about writing the 3 words that describe you as a friend or as a colleague. And then we talked about some of our brand statements. How do you introduce yourself? And I provided you some formats for that. Now, how do you show that on your professional platform? So one of the easiest way is, like as I said, if you go to Google or Bing, if you search for yourself, if you have a LinkedIn profile, because of the search engine optimization, it should show up as one of the top 2 search engine results. And then if you click on it, you will be taken to your LinkedIn profile. If you have not done your LinkedIn profile, again, today is the session that you should all create LinkedIn profiles if it's all not already there. And I see some of you have shared your LinkedIn profiles here, so we can do a review of that towards the end of this session as well. Maybe 1 or 2 I'll pick from that, and then I can do afterwards as well for some of the other folks. So that's kind of fun way to show up. How do you stay active on LinkedIn profile? And then, of course, be careful of what you post, because even if you delete those posts, there are ways that these days things stay online, right? So you don't want to be associated with something that can harm your professional brand. So be mindful of the things that you write. Always think about the diversity and inclusion of things. Don't make any statements that make you a bad candidate by any means, right? So that's something that's important for you to understand. Now, just starting with the professional network overall, like what is kind of talking about some of the numbers, right? LinkedIn is kind of the top platform today for anyone who is actually looking for jobs, or who is actually applying for jobs, who is actually thinking about as an employer. So a lot of companies actually have that, right? Now, there are 50 million plus employers. A lot of Pakistani companies are there as well, with millions of open positions. So there is like sky is your limit. There's a lot of open positions out there. There are about 706 million professionals, so people who have these profiles on LinkedIn, and then they are in 200 plus countries. Some of these numbers are a little bit old, but I'm pretty sure that they have actually grown more in the recent year or so, because of COVID, because of some of the job stats and other things happening throughout the world. And then there's so many groups, so you can actually find certain groups in LinkedIn as well, which you can join with people like similar background, similar interest, similar things. So wanted you to know some of these numbers, and know that there are a lot of people who are using LinkedIn today. So you're not the one and only. So that's why it's important for you to stand out in this. Now I'm going to go into details of LinkedIn profile. I'm going to talk about different sections of the LinkedIn profile, why it is different than a resume. This is a common confusion people have. What should I put on LinkedIn versus what should I put in resume? And then talk about how do you kind of edit different sections, what are important things. First and foremost, if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, please go ahead and go to linkedin.com and create one. You can also do it in the apps, either in the App Store or on the Google Play. That's the first thing. I'm not going to go into detail of how to do that. It's very simple. You go in, you sign in, and you create the profile. Now, once you create the profile, this is a common question people ask, like, what's the difference between a LinkedIn profile versus a resume? So think about it from this perspective. Resume is a summary of your experience and work and anything which is directly related to the job that you're applying right now. So let's say I have a software engineering job, and today if you apply for that software engineering job, it's for JavaScript developer that I'm looking, and you are the one that who knows JavaScript. So when you apply for that role and you use that resume needs to be 100% aligned to that job, and that job is for a JavaScript software developer. So your resume should be all about kind of related to JavaScript experiences and other experience that you think are relevant to JavaScript experience. So and then a resume should not be more than 1 page, at max 2 pages. You have more than 5 years or 10 years of experience. Never write a resume which is 3 pages, 5 pages. Nobody has time to read that. It's as simple as that. Okay. I'm not going to go into resume. This session is not about resume building. So I'm pretty sure there are a lot of great sessions about that. Now, how it is different from LinkedIn profile. So LinkedIn profile is to me a 360-degree view of you. It is not just the current job that you're doing. It is also for your future employer, and anything that is kind of related to you as your professional brand should be on your LinkedIn profile. So if let's say, if I look at my LinkedIn profile today, when you look at it, you can all look at it right now. You will see my career journey overall. You will see what are the things that are important to me, what are all the different volunteer work I do, what are all the sessions and things that I talk about. And then it's a 360-degree view of me. It's not just about me as a PM manager in Microsoft. It is a lot more than that. And I bring that to my LinkedIn profile because that's all the things that make me unique. So LinkedIn profile is a full, I would say, 360-degree view of you. It has more information than for a particular job or a particular thing. And it's important for you to actually represent that, because you don't know what clicks with somebody else in future that will pop out from your LinkedIn profile, and you would be able to maybe connect with them because of that, right? One time an employer reached out to me just because I had posted a Medium article on doing some data analysis. So basically I took some data from Game of Thrones, which is a famous series of show, and I actually did analysis of what seasons did better, what episodes did better, what some of the over the years, what has happened to the show, and I posted it on my LinkedIn profile, and it's in my Medium blog link as well. An employer saw it, and they actually reached out and say, "This is very interesting and fun thing you did. We have lots of similar data. Would you be willing to do something like that for us? And would you be able to kind of join us for that company?" So you don't know what somebody will pick up from your profile at some point. Again, things that are related to your work experience, things that are related to your the skills are the things you should put on your LinkedIn profile. You should not put something which has no direct relationship with the work that you do or any of your professional experiences that you want to highlight. So I want to highlight this and want to make sure that you understand the difference on this. I don't see any questions in the chat, but if there are any questions, please, as I said, put them in the chat. I hope that you're still awake and listening to me and not sleeping. So I'll try to keep it that way. Now, going into some of the important things in your profile. A lot of people don't know, but this is something we see on the LinkedIn side, on the data side. Having a good LinkedIn profile starts by having a good picture. Good picture does not have to be a professional taken picture. It can be today in cell phones and all of that can take really good pictures. It's important that you should be in focus. It shouldn't be a crop picture out of like a group picture. It shouldn't be a picture where you are, where somebody looks at it and they don't know if you are that person or not, right? So we see through data that people who have pictures actually get 21x time more views and 9x time more connection requests as compared to people who don't. So it's as simple as that. If you don't have a picture on your profile, please ask your friend or family member, stand in front of a wall, clean background, something which is not noisy, and take a picture. Take as natural picture as possible. You don't have to look like somebody else. Just whatever is your natural way of doing that. This is a good example of a profile picture on the screen. And then try to smile if you can, because usually that's how, as I said, we are social human beings. We get connect to people through different expressions. And then make sure your face takes the majority of the picture. It doesn't have to be like a picture in which your whole body is there and then face is just so tiny and nobody can see. So try to be in that frame in a way that it's up to your kind of shoulder area at max, and then mostly your head and some more space. So make sure it's the background is also not distracting. So that's the first and most important thing. So today, if you first of all don't have a LinkedIn profile, go create it. Make sure you have a good picture, a decent picture there. Those are the first two and most important thing you should start with. I get this question sometimes that if you're not comfortable, if you let's say cover your head or other things, then whatever is your preferred way, you can still put picture with that. Even if you cover your head or cover your face, if that's how you want to show up at work, that's the picture you should put there, right? If you're not comfortable by, for example, let's say strangers looking at your picture, that's also fine. There is a feature in LinkedIn where you can actually hide the pictures from people who are not connected to you. So you can actually set up that way. But as data shows that if you don't have a picture or people can't see the picture, it's highly unlikely for people to actually go and click on your profile. That's just how human beings are. So it is preferred for you to actually put a picture that people can see. Now, going into the details of how you can basically do different things. I see a few questions. I'll just answer that as I get to that. So I think there are two important questions. One question came about like, what is the difference between follow and connect? And then the other question is like, what we should do to put on your LinkedIn profile as a student. So most of this session, we are going to focus on this second question, like as a student. And as I mentioned, I have a few resources for you to actually look into for a student. And this is a common question because as a student, you have not done any professional work or you have not done any of those things. So what are the things you should put there? So I'm going to go over some of the sections and talk about examples of what you can do there. And then I'll come back to the question about follow and connect as well. So first of all, now that you've created a profile and you have a picture over there, these are some of the sections that you have to kind of definitely add. These are the things you need to add some information in there. Depending on if you're a student or a professional, some sections will have more information, some will not, right? For example, uh, one of the things a lot of people don't know is adding a location and industry actually shows you more in search results. A lot of employers actually look for people in a particular location. Even with remote work and all of that, this is still a trend for people to search for. Let's say I'm looking for somebody in Lahore. I will search Lahore plus software engineer or Lahore software engineer. And that's how I will see a lot of people who are based out of Lahore and in a particular industry. So it's important for you to actually put a location. Even if you, let's say, want to work remote, definitely put some location related to it so people can actually see you in search results. Education certifications. So current education that you're doing, any certifications you're doing, any courses you've done, any online courses, if there are any certificates, that's a great way for you to put as students. Because you might not have any other kind of work experience. So these are some ways to highlight the skills that you have. Any internship experience, I know in Pakistan, internship is not so common as in other countries. So if you haven't done any internship, definitely go and highlight that. If you have not done any internship or any work experience, how can you build that work section, right? So you can highlight some of your projects, some of the projects that you do in your university for a particular course. Definitely put that as an experience section, and then maybe highlight that as a as a project for building up to that for your university program. Why that is important to fill that section for now with those is because they highlight again your skills. They highlight the work that you did. For example, you built something with Python, you did some machine learning with it, or you built a software, a website, you did anything related to that, add that as a project. If you have a link that people can go and find out more information about that, it's going to be even more useful. So if you have a GitHub account where you can showcase that project and the code behind it, definitely add the link over there, because a lot of people tend to go and click on those links. That is a great way to actually put and fill up the work and internship experience and put in the project. Same is for your resume as well. So as a student, if you don't have any work or previous experience or internship experience, you can definitely highlight some of the projects. But in a resume, definitely highlight the projects that are directly related to the job. Don't put, let's say you're applying for software engineering job and you put something with electrical engineering in there. It might show that you have other skills, but it might not be relevant to the job that you're applying. Definitely, this is something, again, as a student, that you should put as your volunteer experience. So people who are, for example, organizing this event today, it's really great for you to highlight these volunteer experiences, because it takes effort. It shows that you can do certain things. It shows these transferable skills, the skills that are not just related to a particular job. Organizing an event takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of coordination. It takes a lot of teamwork. So those are the skills that you can highlight when you talk about your volunteer experience. Skills, of course, any languages, any things that you have learned, and then any of the organizations that you've been associated with. Again, the ones that make sense for your profile and that will make sense in years to come also, please add those. Don't add anything random which has nothing to do with your work or those things. So if you're part of any nonprofit organization, if you're part of this, let's say IEEE chapter, things like that, highlight those in your profile. So these are all the sections that you all should definitely have something. And I've given you many examples of what are the things that you can put in those sections. You can also choose to show the education on the top or not. It can show as a detail, but if you want to show it as on the top also, that's your option. It can increase the bias. For example, if I'm from NAST and I'm trying to hire, there's a chance I might go and find out more people from the same university and try to hire them, right? So there is some data that shows that there is some bias for people who look for people like them or similar background. So it's up to you to actually see if you want to highlight your education or university on the top or not. It should be there in the detail, but that's an option for you to put it on your top or not. So these are all the things you should definitely add. Any achievements, any kind of awards, any of these other things, they're all always good to actually highlight in your LinkedIn profile as well. Now I want to talk about two other sections that a lot of people actually don't pay attention to. So this is something I see across a lot of profiles. I know people are starting to understand this a bit, but there's one section on the top which is called the headline. So if you go to the previous slide, if I look at this person, this is their headline. It says creative director at XYZ, passionate about web design. So this is the headline. And when you actually go on LinkedIn and search for somebody, this is how it shows up. So it shows their picture, it shows that headline, and then it shows the option to either message or connect or their three dots to actually do other things, right? It's important for you to know that when I'm searching, this is all I see. As an employer, as a hiring manager, as a HR person, this is all I see. I don't see any other detail about you unless I click on your profile or unless I basically go into these three dots and do something else. So your first impression is all based out of that one line, plain and simple. And imagine I'm searching for software engineers, for example, I will definitely get like hundreds of profiles, right? So what is it in that headline that will stand out in combination with the picture, in combination with what you've written there? That's it. If you are my connection already, if you've already connected with me in the past, and I'm going to talk the rest of this on that, how do you build connection and all of that, definitely you'll show up higher than the rest of the people. But other than that, this is very important. So headline is very, very important. It's a very small opportunity to you to showcase what you are, what you're about. And there, if you can find hundreds of examples of how people put it, some people start by what they do, what is unique about them, and then the three words that have been used, maybe you can use one of those words there. Again, that's the first impression and kind of the only impression you can make for any search results. So be creative on that. Think about things that stand out for you and how can you actually highlight in that in your headline. And make sure that you think about, like, if you're looking, what is your purpose on LinkedIn? If it's the main purpose is to get a job, would it stand out for recruiters or not? If your main purpose is to kind of build your network or connections, then as a connector, as a connection person, if I'm looking for somebody in software industry, would it stand out for me or not? So those would be some things you should do for your headline. Now, the other thing that a lot of people don't know is summary section. I looked at a lot of profiles and I see their summary section or this about section is actually empty. This is something a lot of people don't know is if you don't have this about section for about, I would say 40 words or so, you will not appear in the top search results. It needs to be at least 40 words or so to show up in the search results. So first of all, if you don't have this section fill up, please do that. On the screen, I have a great example for you to actually use that as a framework to actually put your summary section. 1 or 2 sentences start with who you are. 3 to 5 sentences start about your experiences, top skills, any internships, any projects, any things that you're interesting. And then the last 1 or 2 sentences could be about what you're looking for. What are your goals? If you're looking to engage with other members, or you're looking to get a job in a particular industry, or you're passionate to have a particular goal to achieve something, or you've already achieved something. So definitely that's how think about your about section. This is a great framework to use. So again, I'll take a pause here to make sure that you know all the things I talked about so far. Make sure you have a LinkedIn profile if you don't have already. Have a picture that describes yourself and is without any distractions. In the profile section, make sure you have all these 3 or 4 sections that I mentioned: skills, experience, location, all of those filled up. And then headline and summary are really, really important. So these are 2 sections that are important for you to show up and search results. So make sure you actually have something in there and that makes sense for you as your professional brand. So that's kind of summarizes all of the important things that you can do in LinkedIn profile. Now, as bonus points in LinkedIn, there are a few other things you can do. There is a section on the top, which is basically, you can pin things. You can actually highlight or post some achievements and things like that. So any of your profile section has any achievements or anything like that, you can pin it to the top. So anyone who looks at your profile, and that's only once they click on your profile, they will see that top section. So in that top section, you can pin those important things that anybody wants to do. If you did a talk, or if you did organize an event, or anybody left a review for you on your website, or any of those things, you can make a post about it and then pin those posts on the top. That's a bonus point, things that will make you stand out. Other than that, as I mentioned, volunteer experience, that's great. LinkedIn also has this new thing called skill badges. So you can actually take an assessment in LinkedIn and then put that skill badge on your profile. So once you clear that assessment, it will show that skill badge for you and you can pin that. For example, if you're good in SQL, you can do a SQL assessment and then SQL badge will show up. You can do a Python assessment. You can do some of the other ones as well. So there are tons of those. Skill section definitely is great. And then those are all the sections that are very, very important for LinkedIn profile. So I'll take a pause here for any questions that anyone has on the LinkedIn profile. So I think I covered the student thing, and I'll share the link with you to take home some of the brochures on what you can do. And I see one question, which is it mandatory to choose specific area only? It's not. You can, LinkedIn profile, as I said, it's a 360-degree view of you. Resume is usually very specific to the job that you're applying. LinkedIn profile, you can mention multiple things, especially as a student. When you're starting off, you don't know what you want to be in, let's say, 3 years or 5 years. You might start with a software engineer. Tomorrow you change into something else, right? So you don't have to mention the specific area, but in general, everything should be aligned with the things that you want to be. So if you want to be in the software industry, then your LinkedIn profile should have software industry skills. Uh, in the software industry, again, if you want to be in the software engineering space or the product space or data space or any of the UI UX space, and if you're confused about a couple of them, it's okay. But if I go to your profile today and I'm confused to know, okay, who you are or who you want to be, it's very hard for me to hire you then, unless I'm looking for a person who is very generalist, who can do anything. All the jobs are usually very specific. So try to be as specific as you can, highlighting the different aspects of yourself, but not as generic like you put everything out there. So make it tailored to kind of the job. One of the tip I'll give you is in the job section on LinkedIn. If you go to the job section on your LinkedIn on the top, it will suggest you jobs for you. So look at that jobs for you section and see if those jobs are the jobs that are the kind of jobs you want to take. If those jobs show up, that has nothing to do with your profile or your skills. That means something is wrong in your skills. Something is wrong in your LinkedIn profile. So over time, whatever you put in your LinkedIn profile, the jobs for you section is automatically generated. So it's based on the keywords that you put in your LinkedIn profile. If those keywords don't match those jobs, it is going to show up the jobs that are related to your LinkedIn profile. So if you go in that section, you find something totally out of the blue, that means it's something is not right in your LinkedIn profile. So you need to go and optimize your LinkedIn profile with the right keywords to get those jobs. If you don't mention internship in our LinkedIn profile, can we get a job? So I don't think it's a if and else thing, right? If you have done internship experience and it's related to the work, there's a higher chance for you to actually get a job because you have a previous experience, you have done something in that field. That definitely is backed by data, and we see that people who have done internship experience, people who have done freelancing experience, people who have done projects, people who have done hands-on projects and have GitHub to showcase that work, either open source work or anything like that, there's a higher chance for you to get that job because you have already done something related to it. If you've not done any of those, then some of these transferable skills, these volunteer experiences, these other things are important for you to highlight. So definitely, if you've done internship, there's a higher chance. If you've not done and you don't put that in your LinkedIn, if you've done and not put in LinkedIn, it's actually worse situation. So definitely try to add that. And then make sure if it's related to the job, highlight that as a post or something that I've completed this internship and these are my learnings, things like that. So those are all great ways to highlight some experience that you have. Yeah. So it's somebody wrote like, yeah, it's great to show your internships to and it puts a good impression. So it's really important that you highlight that. Okay, so I will go over the next section. So again, just to summarize what you've talked about so far, we talked about what's the brand, what's your professional brand. We talked about an exercise to think about these words about you from your friends and colleagues. Then we went into the LinkedIn profile section and talked about different sections, talked about important of the summary, important of the headline, picture, and then the different section. And we discussed a little bit about, as a student, what are some of the things that you can put in your LinkedIn profile. Now, the next section I want to go into, and I'm going to go into very fast on this one, because this is more of building a professional network on LinkedIn. And as I said, we'll share these slides with all of you, so you will have it, and also share the brochures of all of this, summary of all of this. So, this is something you will get. But this is about how do you build a professional network online. It's easy to build that once you start a job or you are in some work environment. People know you, they work with you, so it's easy to build it at that point. But you should be thinking about that professional network before starting any job, or even like, because when you need to get a job, these are the people that can possibly help you, right? So some of the ways that you can build that is what I'm going to talk about here. So talking about building your professional network, how do you discover connections? And this is kind of a question where somebody asked connections and request the follow stuff. So I'll talk about the difference in there. How do you search for new connections? And then how do you expand your network over time? And what's the strategy you should be having for it? So this is again a data point. 50% of the hires still to this day actually result from a personal connection. And I know this number is much higher. This is an overall number. I know this number is much higher for Pakistan because a lot of jobs happen through personal connections, through people you know. I know it's not fair. I know it's not equitable for a lot of us who don't have the same access, who don't know people, but that's a reality, a ground reality that happens. So a lot of people get hired through people who they know or who knows uh, what they do or where they are or what are the different companies. So it's important for you to understand and build that network over time. One of the biggest mistake people do is they try to network or connect with people only when they're looking for jobs. This is the biggest mistake, I would say in simple words, that you can do for your career. Because if let's say you today need a job and you start messaging people and know that the right away you need a job in their company and they don't know anything about you, how are they going to refer you? So you should start building that network over the years, over the time that you have, even before you graduate in some cases, so that once you are in a stage where you're looking for a job, there's a higher chance that somebody would know you or somebody would know what you bring to the table as your skills, and they are able to provide a referral for you or connect you with somebody who's hiring in a particular team. I get a lot of requests. I get like hundreds of requests online or LinkedIn that they're looking for a job at Microsoft, for example. I don't know you. I don't know anything about you. How can I refer you when I don't know anything about you? I'm more than happy to refer somebody who I have either worked or seen, or like, let's say, as some of the volunteers who are doing organizing this event, people who have connected with me, who I know a little bit more about them, who I've seen online on LinkedIn, have seen different activity from them. There's a high possibility for me to do that for those folks as compared to somebody that I don't know and they've randomly sent me a message. It's not going to be. And then, of course, not everybody has the time to actually go through the request that you've sent. So it's important for you to build a network over time. I cannot emphasize enough on this point. I hope you understand how important it is. So in LinkedIn, you describe this is the power of networking. Basically, there is the first degree connection. So these are all the connections, people you are connected to. So there's a limit of 30,000, I think, connections that you can do. If I'm not wrong, maybe that number has changed, or 15,000, 30,000, I forgot. There's a number of connections that you can do. You cannot do connections beyond that. These are the people who are your first degree connections. So people who you send connect request to and they said yes to. Then anybody these people are connected to are the second degree or the third degree connections, right? So these are the kind of second degree and third degree connections that people are that you are connected to are connected to. So if you go into search and just search for anybody's name, right next to their name it shows the first, it shows second or third plus, which means are they connected to you in first degree, are they connected to you in second degree, which means somebody that you know knows them or has connected to them. And then if there are beyond that, then that's the third degree network and plus. So this is how this is a simple graph of how they look at it. It's literally a graph on the back end, who's connected to who, right? Um, Again, connections are people that you have seen or connected or known. You kind of admire them, or you want to kind of follow their work in some cases. And if they're okay to be your connection, you can send them a connection request. The second option for you is to follow folks. So these are the people who are more of a creator mode. Some people who have already reached their maximum connections or are like influencer, for example, they won't have any new connection request possible even, right? In some cases they might have and they might not choose to do that. So they have an option for you to follow them. For example, in my profile, I have an option. I have a creator mode on. So there is a setting over there, which means I'm a creator on LinkedIn, since I have a LinkedIn course also. The default option for you to connect with me is to actually follow me. So that means that you're not in my connection, but you can follow my work. You can actually put up alerts for anything that I put out, any posts that I write. So you can follow some of these people as well. And over time, if you follow somebody and you interact with their content, they will know your name because you will repeatedly do that, right? If you interact with them, eventually there is a chance for you to connect with them also. That's a great way. So a lot of people that inspire me, I follow them. they're not in my connection request, but I basically follow them and see their career journey over time and interact with them. And sometimes when you don't know somebody, it's easiest for you to just follow them, especially if they are they have a more experience than you, or something that they do on a repeated basis. A lot of LinkedIn people have LinkedIn creator modes on. So that means by default, you can only follow them. But if you go to those three dots, there is an option to connect with them also. Some people have restriction for you to connect with them. You need their email address. If you don't have that, you won't be able to connect with them. So these are some of the other settings that people have set up. Now, how do you build these network over time, right? So one of the thing is, like, when you're sending an invitation, one of the other mistakes that people do is like they send a connection request without any message. Now, I don't know you, I have never worked with you, and let's say you're sending me a connection request. Why would I connect with you when I don't know anything? Usually when I get a connection request, I actually go to that profile and see if there's any common people. If I looked at that particular profile and see if there's any common interest. If I have nothing common with you, there's a very little chance that I would connect with you. I'm just using myself as an example, but this is generally true for a lot of people. If you add a message on top of that, when you send a request, like why you're trying to connect with me, that adds value to that connection request. I will spend time to actually read through that message to see why you're trying to connect, because of a common area of interest. Maybe you're looking for a job in the same field that I am in. Maybe you have something to add value to my career. So definitely summarize that in the invitation request. And those are some ways that people will tend to, data shows that people will tend to respond to those connection requests. And sometimes know that a lot of people don't check LinkedIn on a regular basis. A lot of people don't go through all the messages also. So they might not see the request, or they might not accept the request. So over time, you will realize, and it, in worst case scenario, what is the worst that can happen? They won't accept the connection. That's okay. But make your best effort, put your best foot forward when you are trying to connect with somebody. Some of the other things you can do is to discover the existing connections. So you can go in this, you can search by somebody's name, you can search by somebody's company, location, any of the other keywords that you have to actually search about them. You can also look at if they're their first degree connections, second degree connections. You can search by their current companies, locations. There are a bunch of filters that you can apply. And then once you find somebody, you can definitely send them a customized request with a message and write a little bit why you are trying to connect with them. And it's always recommended, and it's recommended by LinkedIn, to actually send a message when you are sending an invitation. And then the important thing is, like, what is the strategy? So a lot of people just randomly connect with a lot of people over the time, and over the years that also happens. But the strategy at the end of the day is, like, why would we need to connect with them? The two or three reasons that come to my mind. One is for job search, things like that. So ideally, if that's one of the reasons why you're doing that, so you should be connecting to the people who are in the same field, who you aspire to be in that same field, either in the same company or set of companies you want to work on. So those are the folks you should actually connect with. Second is the people who inspire you in certain ways. For example, particular volunteer work, nonprofit work, diversity, equity, inclusion work, about a particular topic that you're very passionate about, climate change, anything like that. So those could be some folks that you can basically follow and then connect with them over time as well if you want to. There are a lot of thought leaders, the people who have shaped the industry, people like Bill Gates, people like Elon Musk, or who not, like a lot of people like that who have done a lot of great work over the years. Whoever is that list for you, you can follow them. You can definitely find them on LinkedIn. So strategically, you can kind of network with them also. And network does not always mean that they are your connections. Network means that if they put a post out there, you kind of add value to it, you like it, you follow it, you share it, do things like that. Because if you continuously do that over the years, you'll see that they will notice you, and vice versa, right? So if you do something, they might follow you back, or they might connect with you. So have a strategy around that, like what is the top 2 or 3 reasons you want to be on LinkedIn, and about your brand, and how are the top 3 things around you in your network can help you. And then when you're connecting with them, definitely talk about who you are, how you came across their profile, how can they help you. That's important for you to highlight that. Any questions? Any things on anybody's mind right now? So while you think about other questions, I'll just highlight a few things. And while you're networking with these people, right, what are the things you can do? So this is something, as I mentioned, LinkedIn members that get basically 4x more likely to get hired when they're referred. And I'm 100% sure that this number is definitely higher for Pakistan. One of the things is, as I mentioned already, that when you're connecting with people, do that, make sure you message them in the connections. This is a great example for somebody you connect with over time, or if you know them, you can ask them for an informational interview. A lot of people don't know about this term. Informational interview is basically you talk with somebody informally and talk about like what a particular job looks like, what does a day look like for them on that job. Can they advise you a little bit on your career path? Can they help you review your LinkedIn profile? Things like that. Again, what is the important thing for you to connect with them? And this is an example of what you can send somebody over a message and see if they are willing. Again, what is the worst that can happen? They might not respond, or they would say they are busy or they don't have time. That's all okay. But these are some methods that have worked for people in the past. I have spent a lot of time with talking to students like yourself, looking at their resumes, looking at their LinkedIn profiles, providing them some career guidance over the years. And then there are many other forums where you can actually go and do those things as well, other than LinkedIn. If you're part of a network like IEEE network or something like that, sessions like these, there are other forums also you can get that. You can also request people for referrals. This is another thing you can do. Again, there's highly unlikely for somebody to refer you if they don't know you, if they've never connected with you in the past, have nothing in common with you. But over years, if you have, or over time, if you have actually connected with them, engaged with them, and then stayed connected and kept that connection warm in some ways, or had a chat with them in the past, they might remember you and they might be able to willing to kind of provide a referral for you. This is another feature a lot of people don't know is if you have worked with somebody in the past, or a person you did a degree project, or a professor that you did any work with, you can ask for them to write a recommendation for you. So you can choose this, and then once they provide you a recommendation, it's up to you to showcase that on your profile. If you don't like the recommendation, you can hide it as well as on your profile. But this is another thing that's good to highlight on your profile if you have some recommendations. And last but not least, it's important for you to add value and engage with your network. A lot of time we create these profiles, really good profiles. We put all the sections in. We go to this LinkedIn only when we're looking for a job, and then we forget about it. As I said, like over the years, I've seen LinkedIn evolve as well as a social platform. People share their journeys, people share their achievements, people share any sessions they go to, any courses they have taken, any internships they have done. So there's a lot more in LinkedIn not just about jobs, but overall. So you can share over the years like this information about you, these different posts, and then as a person who wants to connect with these people, you can engage with them. So you can like them, you can follow them, you can invest time. So I have a habit of going on LinkedIn at least 10-15 minutes every day. So even I'm not looking for any job, I don't have any plans of switching any jobs, anything like that, but I spend some time, sometimes even more time than that, and just go in and like follow people, see what the trends are going in, what people are talking about, what is the top of minds. There's also a news section now in LinkedIn which talks about the world news. There's trends on LinkedIn that you can see what people are mostly talking about, and there are a lot of other things like that. So depending on how much time you want to spend on it. Again, my goal is to stay connected with the area of expertise that I am in, to make sure that I inspire other people as well. And then if let's say tomorrow I have to find a job, or if I want to hire somebody, I can find it on LinkedIn. So those are my goals. So you can go and define your goals for LinkedIn and then make sure you connect and engage with those folks over the years and have a strategy for you. Don't just randomly go and select people and start following them for no reason or start connecting with them for no reason. Think about why that person is important, why you want to connect with them, why do you think it adds to your value over time, uh, what is that professional brand that you want to be associated with that person for, and all of that. So those are all the other ways you can actually engage with other people. Okay, so last thing that I want to talk quickly is about the job search. So now, just to summarize, we talked about the professional brand, we talked about LinkedIn profile, and different sections of the LinkedIn profile. And then we talked about networking on LinkedIn. How do we network? How do we send messages, referrals, things like that, different aspects of engaging on LinkedIn. The last thing I want to talk about is job search. So how can you use LinkedIn for job search? So wanted to start with this fact that 34 million plus people, job seekers, are actually looking for jobs every week on LinkedIn. So you're not the only one. There are lots of people who are looking for jobs or thinking to actually apply a job. They might be laid off from their current jobs. They might be starting fresh from school. So there's so many people who are looking for jobs. I was looking at the data stats from Pakistan. There are 35,000 IT professionals every year, IT students basically, that graduate every year from these universities who are looking for jobs. So there's 35,000 of you or people like you who are looking for jobs in different like starting from April timeframe towards the end of the year, different graduations happen, things like that. A lot of people start looking for jobs before they graduate, right? So thinking about that number, there's so many of you. How do you stand out in that? So one of the things, this is a good feature in LinkedIn, you can actually show recruiters that you're open to work. So this is how it works. You can actually put certain job titles. You can choose who wants to see. So this green thing that open to work shows up. Let's say if today I want to switch job, I don't want my current employer to know that I'm open to work, but I want other recruiters, so not from my current company, who can see that. So you can share with recruiters only. So that's something you can choose, and this is how you do it. So, and then you can add that hashtag open to work. So anyone who's looking for jobs in, let's say, software development, they can search for open to work, and they will see people who are actually looking for job as compared to people who are not. So this is a great feature for you to actually apply to your LinkedIn profile. Now you can search like any other search engines, you can search for jobs. So you can choose the job, you can choose the location, you can choose the company and few others, all of these different filters, and search from different aspects of it. Once you search on this, you can actually create search search alerts. So let's say whatever search results you got, they are related to the jobs that you want to be. Make sure you create a search alert for it, because you want to get notified when a job like that shows up on LinkedIn, right? You don't want to know like afterwards. So sometimes you forget to actually go into LinkedIn, or you don't check the job section that often, you might miss that job opportunity at all completely. So it's important they actually can set up a search alert. Make sure you test that over time, like the search itself, the different filters, is it working for you? Is it still showing the jobs you want to apply for? And if you're happy with the search results, you can set up this as an alert. And then you can decide how frequently you want it, daily, weekly, through email, through a notification. There are certain settings you can set it up. So definitely do that. And this is the section I was talking about, jobs for you. This actually shows you the jobs that are related to your current LinkedIn profile. So these are the jobs that are picked up from the keywords in your LinkedIn profile. If something is showing you here which has nothing to do with your current aspirations, that means that you don't have the right keywords in your LinkedIn profile. So please go ahead and update your LinkedIn profile with the right terminologies, and over time you will see that these search results will improve as well, and the jobs for you also will improve. Some of the other tips that you can do, you can follow companies. So if you really want to work at a particular company, you can follow them. Every time they have a job, you will get notified. You can follow them. You can follow any of the jobs they post. You can follow any of the posts they do. So that's a great way for you to know. You can also follow or be part of different kind of colleges. So let's say if there is a university that you want to go for higher education, you want to do your master's and PhD, you can follow them. So if they post anything about their education programs, scholarships, things like that, you can know about it. So that's a great way for you to actually do that. And and I think that we saw on the data on backend of LinkedIn is a lot of employers when they search, there is a filter for hiring managers or hiring HR people, that they can choose the people who already follow them. So they can already filter you out if you're not already following them. So we don't see everybody doing it, but we see a lot of companies actually do that. So it's another thing that you can think of if you want to follow these companies. Again, follow the companies that are inspiring for you, that are the ones you want to work for. Don't just go today and follow like 50 companies, because your feed will get overcrowded, and again it will be a lot of noise for you. So have a strategy for yourself. And then some extra credit, right? So we talked about LinkedIn job alerts, searching for jobs, doing different things. So some of the extra credits that you can do in LinkedIn is you can actually go to LinkedIn Learning. So I know a lot of those courses are premium, so there's some paid version. There's also free courses, so there are some free ones as well that you can take. And also when you sign up for premium, you get 1 month free. So if you really want to learn a particular skill, you can sign up for premium for the month free, and learn those skills in that 1 month. Try to do as many courses as you can on that 1 month. As a student, I know it's expensive, so that could be an opportunity for you to actually get some of the in-demand skills. You can join groups. I have a love and hate relationship with groups. There are some groups that are really great, some are really bad or very inactive. So find the groups that you think make sense for you, join them if they make sense to you. And then make sure that you're aware of the privacy settings, that what people can see. You can see that section. Go and find your LinkedIn profile from incognito mode and see what people can see even when they don't know you. So make sure that your profile is set up in a way that you are happy with that from that perspective. One of the other things that LinkedIn has is if you go to opportunity.linkedin.com, there are a lot of courses that are free. There are certain tracks that you can start learning today without paying anything. Again, this is another thing a lot of people don't know. So definitely go try out these different type of skills and courses that are out there. You can also learn some of these soft skills. So not just like the programming skills or other things. There are a lot of other skills, like communication skill is a great skill. Um, my course on LinkedIn, which is there, is on bias. How do you reduce bias in tech? There are a lot of other courses like that. You can actually take those. So those are some of the other skills that you can take, which are not uh, like Python or C++ or C# or things like that. So there are also those that you can find them in opportunity.linkedin.com. And then there are also some great videos on LinkedIn about interview prep, talking about like video prep, like body language, interview practice. And then there is a set of interview prep questions about behavioral questions. So there is a section of interviews which talks about behavioral questions. They have nothing to do with your programming skills or other skills. They are about like conflict management. They are about what are your weaknesses, how well do you fit in with the team. So a lot of the hiring managers usually have these questions prepared for you, and they ask you in the interview process. And we have some on LinkedIn, some great courses for those and some examples of those as well. I mentioned about join groups, so that's another thing you can do. As I said, I like some groups and I don't like some other groups, so definitely choose your groups and see if that makes sense for you or not. Last but not least, I know in Pakistan, freelancing is a big thing. So today, let's say you don't end up getting a job right away from college, or even if you don't want to work in a corporate, you can actually work from home, do a lot of freelancing work. LinkedIn has started doing this. This is a relatively newer thing. It's called linkedin.com/services. You can actually highlight yourself as like what you can do, and people can hire you from LinkedIn to do freelancing work. For example, social media marketing, or you want to do project management, or you want to do C++, or C Sharp, or Python. You can highlight those over here, and then that's something people can do. There are a lot of other websites which are where you can do freelancing. Upwork is a great one. Fiverr is another one. There are a few others. A lot of those are out there. Again, could be a session for itself about freelancing. So that's another way to earn money from your home, from your bedroom, from your drawing room, or whatever you work from. That's a great way to actually start earning money. And then freelancing also adds some skills on you that you might not get as a student. So you can actually start some of those on the side. It would be hard to start, but once you are set up and you have your previous projects to highlight and some profile things are already there, you will be able to get some great gigs online. And I know a lot of people who are earning a lot of money just from their home doing freelancing. And freelancing is a full-time job as well. Like a lot of people do full-time freelancing and they are happy with it. So that's a great option to think about. So this is basically my last slide. I know I've been talking for a long time. This talks about the summary of everything. This is an example profile for you to look at. This is a person called Donna. You can see her highlight. You can see her professional picture. I did not talk about the header, but header is also a great way to highlight anything that you want anybody to see right away. It talks about the kind of contact info people, like contact info. If you click on it, if she has an email or a website, you can put it there. There is like how many connections that person has. A lot of fake profiles. You will see somebody if just adds me and I see they only have, let's say, 15 connections. It's highly unlikely that's a fraud or somebody is trying to do that. And always when somebody is trying to connect with me, actually try to see who's common and try to verify them a bit before I connect with them. Because there could be fraud happening on LinkedIn as well. A lot of people actually pose as recruiters and they try to poach you or try to reach out to you. So be careful. Try to be safe there and make sure you can verify them outside of the LinkedIn profile network as well. Can you find them on another network? Can you kind of connect with them on email? And then email being a professional email verified a few ways before you connect with folks as well. Then this person has a great about section. It's a little bit longer than typical, but it talks about all of that. And she actually highlights all of her services right there in the about section. And you can actually go there and click on those links and actually connect with her and do all of the services that she is providing. She also has some great videos and stuff on her about section that are right there. So you can click on that multimedia, you can go to those videos, you can watch that picture or like any of those things. Then the next section is all of the activities in our activity, right? So a lot of people who create profiles and then do nothing on LinkedIn for a long time have this section empty because you're not engaging with other people. So if you go like somebody's activity or you make a post about your work, you will have more things in this section. Again, might be mindful of what you want people to see because this is visible to other, who you follow, what you comment on others. These are all the things people can see. Make sure you look at the privacy settings of that as well. And then there is the experience section. So this is a great profile. This person also has other sections, but these are some sections I really wanted to highlight to make sure you can add multimedia links, you can add experiences, you can add activities, you can add about section, and then any of the things on the highlight that you want to mention with a professional headshot as well as a background photo or a header. So with that, I want to leave you with this resources. I'll put the link in the chat here. If you go to the tiny URL link, you will actually get few PDFs, which are kind of the summary of the session. Those are all official LinkedIn material. Please make sure you don't do any copyright infringement or anything like that. If you share it with the original original content. Don't copy paste into some other things and then just do that, because there is a liability for that. But those are some official kind of PDFs for you to, there are 3 of them. One of them is about as a student, one of them talks about the profile sections, one of them talks about the how do you network, and then there's a fourth one which is about uh, communicating on LinkedIn as well. So those are the 4 things that you will find in that link. I've also shared my connection with you. So if you want to connect with me on Twitter or LinkedIn or some of the other things that I've done, my course or some other social media platforms, definitely do that. I think we are almost at time. I still have a few minutes. I can definitely take a few questions if you have any. I'll just leave it on this one, and then any questions? I see one person has raised hands, Elias. Yeah, Elias, I've enabled your mic. If you have a question, you can unmute yourself and ask that.
Assalamu alaikum, ma'am. Thank you very much. I have a question regarding the premium feature of LinkedIn. So, ask about card. So, if we put our information for the first month, so the first month we know that the first month is free. After that, we have to pay for that. So, is it we will provide the information again at the last of the month, or they will directly automatically detect the amount?
Yeah, they will directly detect the amount. So if you, before the month is over, I would recommend you to go in and update that or cancel that, because you don't want to get that money detected. So that's why they take your credit card. So definitely go in and set up a alarm for you, a reminder for you to go in and update or delete or cancel that basically premium before the month is over.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you very much.
No problem. And when you sign up, it shows you when the billing cycle is. So basically, it will show you when they are going to charge. It might be on that day itself, or it might be a few days before that. So make sure you do that. Okay. I see a question. Should we include those work project volunteer experience in our LinkedIn profile, which weren't very pleasant? In the sense we joined and worked thinking to gain some valuable skill, but environment couldn't just our expectations. Experience where you feel you didn't like the gain much. Okay. Yeah, that's a very good question. I think the experiences where you gain positive experience, of course, we should add that, right? There's no doubt or no question about that. The experiences where you joined some particular company or tried to do some work and that did not turn out to be the way it should be, I would leave it to your discretion to see what is that you learned from that experience that you want to highlight, right? Again, thinking about those transferable skills. What did you learn? Maybe there was a failure in the project, but you learned something from that failure. You can highlight that. Never be. This is one thing I talk about in a Medium post that I did, which is about never do kind of bad mouth your previous employer, because you never know you're going to end up working with them again or not, or something else can happen that they are hiring or something like that. So make sure that you don't do it from that perspective. Do it from a perspective of what you learn from that experience. What are the top learnings from you? What is the things that you did in that kind of, if something didn't work the way did the way that you wanted to. I am a very positive person, so I always look at like, what did I learn? Every failure is something that you learn something from it. And there's no career, no person out there whose career is always about success. It's always from those moments of failure and things that you learn or do things better or different the next time. So definitely you can do post about those. You can actually learn some experiences like that. Sometimes you just mention those projects as a volunteer without any detail, even if it's good or bad, but it's good for somebody to know that you did that. And then if they interview you, they might ask more questions about you. So you should be ready to answer that. So whatever you highlight on your resume or your LinkedIn profile, always be ready to answer questions about it. And what was that experience? What did you learn over there? What were the skills? But it should be from a perspective of that learning, not to badmouth anyone, not to say, okay, XYZ person or company is bad. Again, this is how I look at it. If somebody is really doing injustice, like the couple of years back, the Black Lives Matter, there are so many other places where there are a lot of injustices happening. People do share their voice at LinkedIn, and it's highly valuable for that. But in the long run of things, you should think about, is that something you want to do or stay associated with your brand? I am very huge advocate of diversity, equity, inclusion. I talk about that in every forum. That's why I did the course on bias, and that's something that I am known for it at my work or outside of work. So I talk about it. It's not always pleasant to talk about that we don't have equal opportunity for women in Pakistan or equal opportunity for a lot of minority groups in different places, even in the US. So I do talk about it. So you can definitely talk about some of the issues that are important to you. Hope I answered your question. Yeah, so I think Zainab, you're saying that you want to connect with people with, so you can definitely connect with people without the premium account. Some people who have these profiles, which are kind of elevated profiles that have certain settings on, you are not able to connect with them because of that. So there may be behind a paywall, but most of the people I know that you can connect with them without the premium setting. Some people, when you have to send them a message, there is I think 10 in-mail messages you can send without the premium, right? Or 5, I forgot the exact number, but basically, those are the ones probably you're talking about. So you might not be able to send them a message, but you can still send them a correction request without the premium feature. You're muted, Faisal.
Sorry. I have to make an announcement that feedback form has been uploaded in the chat section. Every participants are requested to fill the form as it is important to claim your e-certificates. You may continue, ma'am. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, thank you for that form as well. So if there's any feedback that you have for this session, anything you want to see more, definitely fill out the feedback form, and I will ask for the volunteers here to share some of the feedback for me to improve and be better the next time as well. Other questions? I can stay 5 more minutes here. So any other questions anybody has for LinkedIn profile? Somebody said that they sent me a request. I will definitely take a look of all the requests that I got today. Okay, I think if there are no other questions, I would just want the folks who are left here today, please write one word that you thought for this session. What did you learn from this session today? What is the one thing you really, really learned today, or something that you didn't know before, or something that was good about this session that you learned today, or any one word that you have, one word or one sentence, please put it in the chat for me. That would be useful for me to take, and that would be great for me to know. Yeah, I see one comment that is about LinkedIn not so professional like other social media apps. That's definitely a trend I'm also seeing. There is a big debate on on these social media platforms is to be your authentic self, to talk more about who you are as a person, and then you bring that to LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn is also trying to look at like what is that intersection, because let's say if somebody had a baby and they talked about that on LinkedIn, it's kind of a thing that is common in both your work and life, right? And there's no kind of uh, there's no like a right way of doing this. You can always do that on LinkedIn as well. So this is something people do that. Some people might find out it's unprofessional. Some will think that this is okay. So there's a debate on some of this, but there are some people who are really out there. They're really extreme from both sides. Again, at the end of the day, you as a person who is thinking of creating a professional brand on LinkedIn, think of what you want an employer to know. What is your top goal, for example, who you want to connect with, and does your LinkedIn profile reflects that? That's the framework I use to put everything out there. I am available on other social media platforms. For example, on Instagram, I post a lot of my family pictures. I don't post it the same on actually on Facebook also. The reason I don't do that between the two is Facebook, I have a lot of other people from my community work, not just my family or friends. So that's how I separate. There are people who are like influencers who share everything everywhere. If that's your style, go with it and own it and be authentic about it. There's no right and wrong way for that. I think it's up to you who you're comfortable with, what you're comfortable with, what you're happy for people to know about you when they go onto these social media platforms, and then you can go from there. Another question, what other professional platforms that we should join besides LinkedIn? That's a good question. There are not a lot of professional platforms as such, social media platforms where you can connect and network and all of that, like LinkedIn. But there are other job sites. For example, there is Indeed. There is a few others that you can use to actually find professional folks. There is Glassdoor, for example, you can join to see other people comments about other jobs. So there's that network. They're not super professional, as I said. There are people posting about other companies, things like that. But these are all like job based. There is an app called Blind. I am not advocating in favor of it, but it's something that people use where you join up as a as an anonymous person and people talk about their salaries, their all of that. It's used heavily in US. I don't think it's that common in Pakistan. I think you need to have a work email to sign up for it, and that's another one. But in terms of professional networks, there are not a lot like LinkedIn. So a lot of companies came and went, but LinkedIn is probably one of the main ones. A lot of employers are on LinkedIn uh, for the same reason. But there are others like Indeed, Glassdoor, a few others that you can join. Okay, thank you for the folks who wrote some kind words for me here, learning about that it's knowledgeable and then it might help in your LinkedIn profile. Okay, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for the organizers for having me, for Bakhtawer and Faisal and everybody else who put this together. A big round of applause for all of those folks. I know there's a lot of hard work that you put on the background to put sessions like these. So thank you for doing that. And again, thank you everyone for being here from your afternoon, evening, dinner time to spend that here with me. Hope you find the session useful and we'll stay connected in the future and answer any questions in the afterwards as well. Thank you. Wesley, you're muted again.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for honoring us with your presence. Your knowledge has really uplifted the bar. Please accept this seminar as a token of appreciation from our side.
Thank you.
I would also like to thank